Chapter 1. The city, where a parking spot costs more than a house, 70 square feet. That is the average living space for a human being in Hong Kong. Not a storage unit, not a prison cell, a home. A place where someone sleeps, eats, dreams, and raises children. Now picture this. A single parking spot in the mid-levels district sold for $1.3 million in 2023. That same money buys you a 4-bedroom house with a swimming pool in Texas, a vineyard in Portugal, or a beachfront villa in Thailand. In Hong Kong, it parks one car. This is a city where 7.4 million people are crammed into just 25% of the total land area, because the rest is protected country parks and mountains, where the average apartment costs 23 times the median annual household income, where young professionals with university degrees and 6-figure salaries still live with their parents well into their 30s, not by choice, but because there is literally nowhere else to go. And yet, people keep coming, businesses keep opening, the skyline keeps growing taller, the restaurants keep filling. Something about this city refuses to let go of the people trapped inside it. So how does anyone actually survive here? What does daily life really look like when your rent swallows 70% of your income? And why, despite everything, do millions of people choose to stay in the most expensive city on the planet? Before we get into all of that, if you are watching this and wondering whether a place like Hong Kong could ever make sense for your life, hit subscribe. Every week, we break down the real cost of living in cities around the world. No sugarcoating, no travel influencer fantasy, just the truth about what it takes to build a life somewhere new. Now let us start with the thing that defines every single decision a person makes in this city. Chapter 2. The apartment crisis that broke an entire generation. To understand Hong Kong, you need to understand one number: 1,106 square feet. That is the size of what Hong Kong considers a large apartment. In most Western countries, that is a modest 2-bedroom. Here, it is luxury. It is aspiration. It is what families of 4 dream about for decades. The reality for most people is far smaller. The median apartment size in Hong Kong hovers around 400 square feet for a family unit. For singles, it drops to 200 or less. And at the very bottom of the housing ladder, you find something that shocks visitors from every country on Earth. They are called subdivided flats. Take a standard apartment, maybe 600 square feet. Now carve it into 4, 5, sometimes 6 separate units using thin plywood walls. Each unit gets a bed, maybe a hot plate, a shared bathroom down the hallway. The rent for one of these cubicles runs between $500 and $800 per month. Over 220,000 people live in these conditions, according to government census data from 2021. That includes 40,000 children. But it gets more extreme. Below subdivided flats, there are cage homes, literally wire mesh enclosures stacked in rows, like bunk beds in a warehouse, where elderly men sleep in spaces no larger than a coffin. Monthly rent for a cage, $200. These are not homeless people. These are working adults who simply cannot afford anything larger. How did it get this bad? The answer is a collision of geography, policy, and speculation that created the perfect storm of unaffordability. Hong Kong sits on a series of steep mountains and islands. Only about 7% of the total land is zoned for residential use. The government owns all land and releases it through auctions to developers, generating enormous revenue. In fact, land sales have historically contributed up to 30% of total government revenue. This creates a perverse incentive. The government benefits from high land prices, developers benefit from scarcity, and ordinary people pay the price. Between 2000 and 2024, apartment prices rose by over 300%. Wages rose by about 50% in the same period. The math simply stopped working for anyone without family wealth or a finance salary. A 28-year-old teacher named May once told a local newspaper, "I have a master's degree. I work 60 hours a week. I cannot afford a 200 square foot apartment without a roommate. My students ask me about their future, and I do not know what to tell them." That quote appeared in the South China Morning Post in 2022. Nothing has changed since. Chapter 3. The neighborhoods, where rich and poor live centimeters apart. One of the strangest things about Hong Kong is how wealth and poverty exist in extreme proximity. There is no gradual gradient here, no suburban buffer zone separating the classes. In Hong Kong, a $70 million penthouse can share a hillside with a public housing estate where families of 5 sleep in 300 square feet. Take the Peak. Victoria Peak is the most prestigious residential address in Asia. Properties here sell for over $100,000 per square foot. The air is cleaner. The views span the entire harbor. Hedge fund managers and tech billionaires live behind gates with private security. Their children attend international schools costing $50,000 per year. Now take the mid-levels escalator down the hill. Within 15 minutes of walking, you pass through gentrified cocktail bars, cramped wet markets, and arrive at Sham Shui Po, one of the poorest districts in the city. Here, the streets smell of dried fish and engine oil. Elderly women push carts of cardboard for recycling, earning about $3 per load. Subdivided flats line every floor above the street-level shops. Second-hand electronics spill out onto folding tables. Fabric shops sell remnants by the kilo. It is a neighborhood that runs on resourcefulness and sheer stubborn survival. This is not a city of neighborhoods in the Western sense. It is a city of layers. Rich above, poor below. Penthouse above, cage home below. Sometimes, literally, in the same building. Kowloon is perhaps the most honest expression of this. The peninsula that faces Hong Kong Island across the harbor is a dense wall of residential towers, shopping malls, and old tenement buildings, pressed together so tightly that sunlight barely reaches the lower floors. Nathan Road cuts through the center, a river of neon signs, tourist shops, and curry houses that has looked roughly the same since the 1970s. Jordan and Mong Kok pulse with energy at all hours. At 2 in the morning, you can buy fruit, get a haircut, eat a bowl of wonton noodles, and find someone selling bootleg electronics, all within one city block. The population density in Mong Kok reaches over 130,000 people per square kilometer, making it one of the most densely populated places on the entire planet. And then there is the New Territories, the vast stretch of land between urban Kowloon and the Chinese border. Here, massive public housing estates rise like concrete forests, home to over 2 million people. Tin Shui Wai, sometimes called the City of Sadness by local media, houses over 300,000 residents in identical tower blocks. Social isolation, domestic violence, and mental health crises have plagued this area for decades. But the New Territories also hold villages, farmland, and country parks that feel like a different universe from the neon chaos below. Residents here commute an hour or more into the city center for work, trading space for time every single day. Chapter 4. What things actually cost when you live here. Let us talk real numbers, not tourist prices, not luxury prices. The everyday cost of being alive in Hong Kong as a regular working person. Rent is the monster that eats everything else. A studio apartment in a decent area, say Wan Chai or Tsim Sha Tsui, runs between $1,800 and $2,500 per month for 300 square feet. Move further out to Tuen Mun or Tsung Kwan O and you drop to 1,200, but your commute becomes 90 minutes each way. Groceries are surprisingly expensive for a city so close to mainland China. A dozen eggs cost about $3.50. A liter of milk runs $4. Fresh vegetables and fruit at the wet market are cheaper than supermarkets, but a basic weekly grocery run for one person still hits $60 to $80. Imported goods cost even more. A box of cereal that costs $4 in America costs $7 or $8 here. Cheese, wine, and anything Western branded carries a steep markup that never seems to drop regardless of demand. Eating out, paradoxically, can be cheaper than cooking. A basic meal at a cha chan teng, the local diner-style restaurants that serve everything from instant noodles to pork chop rice, costs between $4 and $7. These places are everywhere, and they feed the city. A bowl of wonton noodles at a street stall, $3 to $5. Dim sum for two at a mid-range restaurant, $30 to $45. Transport is where Hong Kong actually delivers value. The MTR subway system is efficient, clean, and cheap. A single ride costs between $1 and $3, depending on distance. A monthly pass does not exist in the traditional sense, but the Octopus card system offers small discounts. Buses cover every corner of the territory. Taxis start at about $3 and rarely exceed $15 for most urban trips. Healthcare is a split system. Public hospitals charge almost nothing, about $15 per visit, including medication. But wait times are brutal. 6 months for a specialist appointment is normal. 2 years for non-urgent surgery is not unusual. Private healthcare is fast but expensive. A basic doctor visit runs $80 to $150. Insurance through an employer covers most professionals, but freelancers and gig workers are largely on their own. Utilities for a small apartment run about $150 to $200 monthly, electricity, water, gas, internet combined. Internet speeds are among the fastest in the world, and a home broadband connection costs about $25 to $35 per month. Mobile phone plans with unlimited data cost around $20 to $30, significantly cheaper than comparable plans in the United States or Australia. The total monthly cost for a single person living modestly in Hong Kong, not struggling but not comfortable either, lands between $3,000 and $4,000 US. For context, the median monthly household income in Hong Kong is about $4,200. That household often includes 2 working adults. Chapter 5. The food culture that keeps people sane. In a city where your apartment is a shoebox and your rent is a crime, food becomes everything. It becomes your living room, your social life, your therapy, your identity. Hong Kong has more restaurants per capita than almost any city on Earth. Over 15,000 licensed food establishments serve 7.4 million people. The city holds 69 Michelin stars across dozens of restaurants, but the real magic happens at the places with plastic stools and fluorescent lights. Dim sum is not a meal here, it is a ritual. On weekends, families gather at restaurants by 7 in the morning, pushing trolleys of bamboo steamers between crowded tables. Ha Gao, Siu Mai, Chung Fun, Cha, Siu Bao, the names alone could fill a page. A proper dim sum session lasts 2 hours and costs $20 to $30 per person. Grandparents bring grandchildren. Business deals happen over tea. Arguments are resolved between bites. Then there is Dai Pai Dong culture, the open-air cooked food stalls that used to line every street in the city. Most have been regulated away by health authorities, but a few dozen survive, mostly in the new territories and a handful of government-licensed hawker centers. At these stalls, a chef with 40 years of experience will cook you a plate of typhoon shelter, crab, or salt and pepper squid for $12, standing over a wok so hot it sounds like a jet engine. Cha Chan Tengs deserve their own paragraph. These Hong Kong-style diners are the soul of working-class food culture. Open from 6 in the morning until midnight, they serve a hybrid menu, born from British colonial influence and Cantonese pragmatism. Hong Kong-style milk tea, thick and sweet, brewed through a silk stocking filter, pineapple buns with a slab of cold butter inside, macaroni and ham soup for breakfast, baked pork chop rice smothered in tomato sauce. None of it is fancy, all of it is necessary. For many residents, eating out is not a luxury, it is a practical necessity. When your kitchen is 2 feet wide and your apartment has no ventilation, cooking at home fills your living space with grease and smoke. Eating at the Cha Chan Teng downstairs is often cheaper and faster than cooking. Late at night, after the office towers go dark and the MTR runs its last train, the city reveals another food layer entirely. Dessert shops stay open until 2 in the morning, serving mango, pomelo, sago, and warm tofu pudding. Congee shops ladle out bowls of silky rice porridge, topped with sliced fish or preserved egg. These places are not trendy, they are essential. They catch the city when it finally exhales. Chapter 6. The work culture that never lets you leave. Hong Kong consistently ranks among the most overworked cities in the world. The average working week stretches to 44 hours officially, but in practice, 50 to 60 hours is standard across finance, law, retail, and hospitality. A 2019 study by UBS found that Hong Kong workers logged more hours per year than any other city surveyed, an average of 2,174 hours annually. The culture is simple. You stay until your boss leaves, your boss stays until their boss leaves, and the person at the top never leaves. In the finance sector, which employs over 260,000 people in Hong Kong, junior analysts routinely work 80 to 100 hours per week during deal periods. Investment banks in Central, the financial heart of the city, keep their lights on until 2 or 3 in the morning. The phrase work-life balance is understood intellectually but practiced almost nowhere. Retail and service workers face a different problem. Many work 6 days a week, with a single rest day. Domestic helpers, who number over 370,000 in Hong Kong, mostly from the Philippines and Indonesia, are legally required to live with their employers. Their statutory minimum wage is 4,870 Hong Kong dollars per month, about $620, with 1 day off per week. On Sundays, thousands gather in public spaces, Central's elevated walkways, Victoria Park, sitting on cardboard sheets, sharing food, video calling family back home. The entrepreneurial culture here is fierce but narrow. Starting a business in Hong Kong is easy on paper. Low taxes, minimal bureaucracy, no capital gains tax, no sales tax. But the reality is that rent makes most physical businesses almost impossible. A small retail shop in a mid-tier location costs $5,000 to $15,000 per month in rent alone. Restaurants fail at staggering rates. The food industry turnover is brutal. What keeps people here is the money. Salaries in finance and professional services remain among the highest in Asia. A mid-level banker pulls in $150,000 to $300,000. Senior lawyers and accountants clear similar figures. But the trap is clear. You earn more. You spend more. The city takes it all back in rent, and the cycle never breaks. Chapter 7. The transport system that actually works. If there is one thing Hong Kong does better than almost anywhere on Earth, it is moving people around. The MTR handles over 5 million passenger trips per day across 11 lines and 98 stations. Trains arrive every 2 to 4 minutes during peak hours. The system is clean, air-conditioned, and almost never late. It connects the densest urban areas to the airport, to the border with mainland China, and to the far reaches of the new territories. But the MTR is only one layer. Above ground, Hong Kong runs the world's largest fleet of double-decker buses, over 6,000 vehicles operated by 5 companies, covering 700 routes. The iconic red minibuses, seating 16 passengers, run informal routes through narrow streets that full-size buses cannot reach. Trams run along the northern shore of Hong Kong Island, a 100-year-old system that costs 50 cents per ride. The Star Ferry crosses Victoria Harbour for about 40 cents, one of the greatest bargains in urban transport anywhere. The Octopus card, introduced in 1997, was one of the first contactless payment systems in the world. Today, it works on trains, buses, ferries, parking meters, convenience stores, vending machines, and even some taxis. Over 35 million cards are in circulation, nearly 5 times the population. What makes it all work is integration. The city was designed around public transport. Residential towers are built directly on top of MTR stations. Shopping malls connect to bus terminals, which connect to ferry piers. You can cross the entire territory without ever stepping outside into the weather if you know the covered walkway network well enough. Car ownership is actively discouraged. Registration taxes can exceed 100% of the vehicle price. Parking costs $300 to $800 per month. Petrol costs over $10 per gallon. As a result, only about 800,000 private cars exist in the entire city. Most people simply do not need one. Chapter 8. The country parks nobody talks about. Here is the thing about Hong Kong that surprises every visitor. 75% of the territory is not urban. It is green. Mountains, forests, reservoirs, beaches, hiking trails, and protected country parks stretch across the landscape, surrounding the city like a ring of wilderness. 24 country parks and 22 special areas cover over 40% of Hong Kong's total land. The McLehose Trail runs 100 kilometers from east to west across the new territories, through mountains reaching over 900 meters, past reservoirs of emerald green water, along ridgelines with views of the South China Sea. Dragon's Back, on Hong Kong Island itself, was named Asia's best urban hiking trail by Time magazine. The walk takes about 2 hours, following a ridgeline with panoramic ocean views, and ends at a beach called Big Wave Bay, where surfers catch swells from the Pacific. Lion Rock, rising over the Kowloon Peninsula, is more than a hiking trail, it is a symbol. During the 1970s, Hong Kong was transforming from a manufacturing hub into a financial center. People worked impossible hours, lived in impossible conditions, and built something extraordinary. The spirit of that era was nicknamed the Lion Rock Spirit, after the mountain that watches over Kowloon. To this day, climbing Lion Rock at sunrise is an act of cultural identity for many residents. Lantau Island, home to the airport, also holds the Ngong-Ping Plateau, where the 34-meter Tiantan Buddha sits in bronze silence. The Wisdom Path nearby carves the Heart Sutra into wooden columns arranged in an infinity shape on the hillside. Below, Tayo Fishing Village still stands on stilts over the water, selling shrimp paste made the same way for 200 years. The beaches, too, defy expectation. Sai Kung in the eastern New Territories holds coves with water so clear you can see the sandy bottom from the cliff above. Long Kea Wan, accessible only by hiking trail, is often empty on weekdays. Sheko, on the southern side of Hong Kong Island, feels like a Mediterranean village transplanted into the tropics, with its low-rise houses, lazy dogs, and weekend barbecues on the sand. The irony is thick. People in Hong Kong live in some of the smallest apartments on Earth, but they are never more than 30 minutes from wilderness that would be a national park in any other country. Chapter 9. The language, the identity, and the generation gap. Cantonese is the soul of Hong Kong. Not Mandarin, not English. Cantonese, with its 9 tones, its sharp humor, its untranslatable slang that changes every 6 months. English remains an official language and is used in courts, government documents, and international business. Most educated Hong Kongers switch between Cantonese and English fluidly, sometimes mid-sentence, a practice called code mixing that confuses outsiders completely. A typical office conversation might sound like, "We need to finish the report by Friday," but Gore client Howlan, meaning that client is really annoying. Mandarin has become increasingly present since 1997, when sovereignty transferred from Britain to China. In schools, Mandarin instruction has expanded. Some businesses now require Mandarin fluency. This is a sensitive topic. For many Hong Kongers, especially younger generations, Cantonese is not just a language. It is an identity marker. It is what separates their city from the mainland. what makes them distinctly Hong Kong. The generational divide here is enormous. People born in the 1950s and 60s grew up in British Hong Kong, surviving poverty, building wealth from nothing, embodying the Lion Rock spirit. They tend to be pragmatic, politically cautious, and focused on stability and money. Those born in the 1980s and 90s came of age in a period of increasing anxiety about Hong Kong's relationship with Beijing. They are more politically engaged, more globally connected, and more frustrated by the housing crisis that locks them out of the life their parents achieved. The youngest generation, born after 2000, is navigating a completely new landscape. Many are choosing to emigrate. Between 2020 and 2023, over 180,000 people left Hong Kong under various visa schemes offered by the UK, Canada, and Australia. The city's population actually declined for 2 consecutive years, something that had not happened since World War II. Those who stay face a paradox. Hong Kong remains one of the most dynamic, wealthy, and connected cities in Asia. But the social contract that once promised hard work leads to a good life feels increasingly broken for anyone without inherited wealth or the right industry connections. Chapter 10. Is Hong Kong worth it? The honest calculation. So here is the question everyone watching this wants answered. Should you actually consider living in Hong Kong? The honest answer depends entirely on what you value and what you are willing to sacrifice. If you are a young professional in finance, tech, or professional services, Hong Kong offers salaries that are difficult to match anywhere in Asia outside of Singapore. The tax rate is capped at 15% on salary income, with no capital gains tax, no sales tax, and no dividend tax. For high earners, this means significantly more take-home pay than London, New York, or Sydney. If you value food, culture, convenience, and energy, Hong Kong delivers at a level that few cities can match. The combination of world-class dining, efficient transport, safe streets, and proximity to nature creates a quality of daily experience that often surprises newcomers. If you need space, privacy, quiet, or affordable housing, Hong Kong will break you. There is no way around this. Your apartment will be small, your rent will be high, your savings rate will suffer unless your income is well above average. If you are a family, the calculation becomes even harder. International schools cost $20,000 to $40,000 per year. Local schools are crowded but academically rigorous. Childcare is expensive. Apartments large enough for children are rare and prohibitively priced in desirable areas. Many expat families with 2 children spend upward of $6,000 monthly on housing alone, just to secure enough square footage for the kids to have their own room. If you are a digital nomad or freelancer, Hong Kong is paradoxically both welcoming and hostile. The city has no specific digital nomad visa. Tourist visas allow 90-day stays for most passport holders. The cost of living makes it unsustainable long-term, unless your income is substantial. But the infrastructure, connectivity, and energy make it an incredible short-term base. Co-working spaces run between $300 and $600 per month, and the cafe culture in areas like Sheung Wan and Kennedy Town offers plenty of spots to work with fast Wi-Fi and strong coffee. The people who thrive in Hong Kong share certain traits. They are adaptable. They find joy in small spaces and big experiences. They eat well. They walk fast. They do not complain about the humidity, at least not out loud. They understand that the city takes more than it gives in some ways, but what it gives, no other city on earth can replicate. A 53-year-old British banker who has lived in Hong Kong for 22 years once told me, "Every year I think about leaving. Every year I book a flight somewhere else to look at apartments. And every year I come back. Because when I land at Chek Lap Kok and the taxi crosses the bridge and I see that skyline at night, I remember, there is nowhere else like this. There never will be." Hong Kong is not a city that makes sense on paper. The numbers do not add up. The apartments are too small, the rents too high, the hours too long, the future too uncertain. And yet 7.4 million people wake up every morning, squeeze onto the MTR, eat their egg waffle on the street, and do it all again. Maybe that is the real answer. Hong Kong is not a rational choice. It is a feeling. And feelings, unlike apartments, do not have square footage. That is the truth about living in Hong Kong. Not the Instagram version with the harbor views and the rooftop bars. Not the doom version with only cage homes and protests. The real version, somewhere in between, where ordinary people build extraordinary lives in extraordinary small spaces. If this video changed how you think about Hong Kong or about expensive cities in general, will hit like. Subscribe if you want to see more honest breakdowns of what life actually costs around the world. And tell me in the comments, could you live in 400 square feet if the city outside your door was this alive? Would you trade a backyard and a quiet street for a city that never sleeps but never stops feeding you either? Drop your answer below. I read every single comment. I will see you in the next one.